We got to focus on this game, though, because it's Chamber of Commerce time. In the hands of Louis MT, god of the Chinese, god of Jeanne D'Arc. And he's going to be doing this up against an aggro boy on one of the most oppressive civs we currently have in Age of Empires 4. It's the English in the hands of the aggressor, Vortex, playing on his Freddie Smurfy account in the blue. We are going to be on Highview. Interesting map, actually. Not a bad one for Chamber of Commerce, considering the corner spawning trade. A bold choice as well, but kind of an interesting one that, you know, I've been expecting more Jeanne pickers to lean into. I actually think Jeanne does Chamber of Commerce better than French, and it's one of the few things she does better. The reason is that you are so anchored towards this idea of mid-map aggression that it scares other civs away. And inherently in doing that, it means that you can more freely trade without pressure on you, right? Same logic about why you would never trade against Jeanne, because you're just feeding her XP. She wants you to come out and contest her. And the whole logic with Chamber of Commerce is you have to choose your poison. You either come out to attack her trade and die to her, or you let Jeanne trade, and you let your opponent have trade. Neither sounds delightful. But maybe English is the civ that can solve for it. Don't know if you guys know this, but this is one of Jeanne's hardest matchups by far in Age of Empires 4. There are not many civs she's struggled more with than the English. Why? Multiple avenues. If the English play defensive, you can't easily dive with Jeanne's army. Not against double TC fire and double arrow fire from the primary, let alone the attack speed buffer. If you try to defend, if you find the English are the ones in the offensive, you also struggle because Mass Lombos annihilates Jeanne. She becomes a prime target because of the high base damage. So definitely a bit of a struggle-snuggle matchup. We'll have to see what Jeanne can do here. Stables opening coming as would be expected. King is already primed and on the way, and it is indeed going to be the 2 TC build out of the Spaniard. Likely on this spot right here. This is actually a disgusting pawn. This is the second game in a row we've watched Vortex get, quite frankly, ludicrous spawns on Highview. Ludicrous may not be the most insane spawn we've ever seen, but it is, if you had to rate 0 being crap and 10 being the best, I'd put Vortex's spawns on this map so far at a solid 8. He gets the TC on the gold. That allows him to inflate towards castle quickly. He gets the deer pushing opportunity now with the scout. That is huge here. It allows you to go for a much more aggressively tuned castle timing. And the word aggressively has not been used willingly. It's been forfeited from me. Because this is the player that wants those aggressive timings. It allows him to ramp up much faster. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing those deer shoved in shortly. Trade in the meantime is going to start kicking off. First trade just came out. Pretty delayed here, actually. It looks like we didn't actually have wheelbarrow coming in as quickly as I maybe would have anticipated. Forestry wasn't even prepped. Typically, you see players prep forestry for this play. And we actually have stone being gathered, so that's interesting. It looks like Louis is going to be going for some outposts to protect his trade. What's that? Someone else highlighting that for RTSs to become mainstream again, 1v1s need to stop being the focus, and team games needs to take a big stand in the crowd. Wow. Where have you heard that opinion before, Sinway? Yes, I've been a big believer in that for a long time. Maybe sometime in the next 5 years, someone's really going to lock onto that detail. Nice being spammed up. You're noticing that Vortex isn't adding in anything aggressive at all. This is pretty atypical. A little bit disappointed there wasn't a deer shove in here, by the way. I mean, realistically, from a mathematical standpoint, the farms are basically as good as the deer before survival techniques. But they don't get better than the deer with survival techniques until you are, what, like age 4, I think, in terms of raw food gathering. And it's just a free play there. I guess the concern right here is that Vortex can't afford to have the king without his scout, because if he does, he might run into a pinch and lose the king to Jeanne sniping it. Because Jeanne did go range form, by the way, which is the correct call. You can't play melee form up against English because of the longbos we mentioned, and also the king. The longbos are the bigger detail, though. I've seen it in the early days when Jeanne pickers tried to play against English. They'd rush in with Jeanne, and she'd die before she even got in range for a cleave. It's that bad. And the cool thing here, you can see he's hunting for it. He wants that opportunity to just one-tap down. Right? This is where Vortex has to be very careful and respectful. Is it's very easy to just lose this king if it gets anywhere near death's door. Like, you can't min-max like you normally would, because it means that Jeanne will get the final hit. I say that, he's walking in very greedily here. Luckily, the scout goes down. That was huge, actually. Dude, that was sick. Vortex intentionally dove for the scout, right? He gets the kill there, and that means that Jeanne can't walk in and snipe in the forest. That was such a big game changer. Because otherwise, these knights could have recycled their charge, gap close, hit the king twice, put him down to 40 HP, and then Jeanne could have finished him with the arrow. Damn, that was sick. So a reproduction on the scout here out of the stables that was built. And we have got more traders on the way. We should be up to what? Yeah, 3 so far. It doesn't really inflate as quickly as the eco on the other side, right? Like, and that's to be expected here. You're having to wait for a tech to get a free trader, right? And techs take a long time to research. And because you're trying to pump your initial knights, at the beginning of the age, you don't have the resources to immediately commit everything into all the eco techs. You need to get the knights first. So it staggers your timing on getting the free traders. Vortex halfway towards castle already, man. I'm a bit perplexed what the plan is for Louis to get out of this. Maybe he was... Okay, I think I know what this was. He thought he was going to get the king kill really early, and then he was going to constrict the English a bit. But even that feels really flimsy. The reality is the English can just hunker down and go castle. It's very difficult for a Jeanne player to build a big enough army to dive and kill their opponent, because diving into a white tower is a death sentence for mass knights, right? Like they're not going to stand there for very long when you consider that the maximum armor you can give your French knights is 4, and a white tower's base attack is 12 times 3. Kind of a cool idea there, by the way. Louis, it looks like he delayed his traders going on a trade until they were stacked up so that he could then escort them. Still, he needs to get that maximum distance ASAP. Only 10 gold right now each way. Wolves are going to start coming up. Louis, he is admittedly saving up quite nicely towards that castle timing. This gets a lot scarier if you can't get the walls up quickly, though, folks. The reality is that the white tower is going to lead to a lot of knight spam. And Vortex is not weak on economy, right? He's already got 1, almost 2 farm clusters up. So he'll have a decent pump here, a sustainable 750, 800 food a minute. I think it's going to be a lot more than that as well, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to snake relics. It's quite easy to just sneak out for that on high view, right? There's a lot of blind spots here. A little bit risky against Jeanne, but you don't really want to be running Jeanne out into the mid-map if you're Louis. On a map like this, when you know your opponent's starting to pump knights, Jeanne walks into the wrong neighborhood, she ain't walking out. First 2 knights coming out, Guildhall being prepped on the other side. And interesting, wait, when did he sneak this? This was very recent, or I'm very blind? Louis did actually go 2 TC in the end. Wow, that's kind of crazy. That was definitely on a significant delay, right? Because he has 6 traders to compensate the difference. Kind of cool that he caught up like this, though. I don't know, man. That makes me believe a little bit more here. Weirdly enough, despite the fact that's greedy. I don't know if Vortex has seen this detail. I don't think he has been deep enough, right? Which is really important. Because if he knew, he'd put everything into knights and kill. Instead, he's putting things into monks. This is a spicy meatball to now sink our teeth into. Because if you think about it, if you get deep enough into the game, Jeanne can contest the English. And the reason is mass arbitrary with crossbow stirrups and the attack speed booster makes you kind of eclipse the network of Citadel's effect, at least temporarily. And crossbow stirrups at least keeps you competitive outside that. So there is a world in which Jeanne in the hyper late game could contest the English. It's a tough uphill battle though, and an absolute ballbuster of a challenge to even get there. Nice, now diving into the wood line. Jeanne would love to reap the rewards here. The problem right here is, like, really, Vortex could just target down Jeanne. The reason he's not is, check this, only 11 villagers inside. So Louis intentionally left enough room to garrison the archer so that Jeanne can't die. That's really smart here. He's starting to be brought low, and looks like Jeanne, unfortunately, out of range of XP here because he wants to go hunting. The villagers get found. Vortex starting to turn the screws. A big screw you moment. Scouts at least get taken out, so that is now Vortex riding blind in the enemy base. I think he has actually got a glimpse of this TC now, so he should realize it's 2 TC versus 2. Arbitrator now coming out. Jeanne, in the meantime, what a bait! Divine Restoration gets pumped. Jeanne brought low. Will she die off here? It looks like there's going to be an extra love tap coming in. She can actually take an extra hit, though. And the Knights turn around for the charge. Good save. 0 XP given, though, is a sin. That's the first king, right? And the first king, I guess, doesn't give anything? Wait, no. That doesn't make sense. If the first king doesn't give anything, I don't think the second one will either. That seems like a bug. There's no way the king should be giving 0 XP across to Jeanne. That's dumb. Yeah, they're going to need to fix that. That should be 20 XP for Jeanne. That's insane. Well, the first one costs nothing. But by that logic, for example, if you have a Chamber of Commerce build and you snipe a trader with Jeanne, you still get the full XP, right? So I don't think that holds true. Same logic as, like, for Mongols, right? With Mongols, if you get... Like, this is the inconsistency I don't like, by the way. It's like Mongols, if you kill their traders, which do not cost 120 resources, you still get 12 XP, right? I feel like that just needs to be consistent. It feels weird to me that it's not. I've said this about Jeanne mirrors as well. Jeanne should genuinely give XP when she dies. It's silly that she gives 0. She should actually give, like, either her buyback cost or half of her buyback cost. That, by the way, would make Jeanne mirrors very interesting to watch. Knights, in the meantime, still hunting. Well, Jeanne has ran out onto the other side of the field here. So, Wolves coming in. And we've got Imp on the way, man. I'm starting to lose faith that Jeanne is going to survive this. This is brutal, this timing. Because look at the comp that Louis gone for. There is one type of pump that stops this out of the Wingard, and it's Raiders. Wingard Raiders disintegrates everything Louis is trying to do here. Wait, what? Alright, good guy Vortex. He's like, you know what? English OP, I'm going to be fair. I'm at least going to give him a chance. It's going to be a Berkshire. Yeah, this is so unnecessary. I guess he's... Oh, actually... He's down to 3 military, right? So he's clearly worried about a dive. The only reason you build Berkshire is you think your opponent's going to kill you. But I'd argue in the tech up, you could have been pumping Knights or Spearmen or something to defend this. And with the walls up, with the positioning in this game, I don't feel like Louis is in a position to punish you. But we have to remember that Vortex doesn't have God vision like we do, right? He barely sees anything. And this is brutal, though. For Louis in this situation, to feel like he's just catching up and then all of a sudden be this far behind. And the Knights really are the difference, right? I had to build so many of these, but just think about the raw mass involved. It's over 2,400 resources in Knights. So much resource in reserve. Tech up complete. What is the plan here? I'm not sure what he's holding for. I mean, Berkshires is going to scare him off. So that's good, actually, for Vortex. Louis will not try to contest this. What's weirder to me is the fact that he's sitting on 2,000 surplus resources and hasn't made a choice yet. Usually you expect to see, like, what? Knights, Men-at-Arms, one of these options. He could have even just been queuing up hand cannoneers, at least. That would make sense to be using. But looks like he's made up his mind. Is it just going to be mass Men-at-Arms into Arbitrary Knight? What? That quite possibly may be the single worst choice to make against Louis' comp. Men-at-Arms, I get it, right? Like, it's a very powerful comp late game for the English. And someone's about to say, what comp? You just spam Men-at-Arms. Exactly. But in the beginning here, when you're up against Knights and Arbitrary, are you not just giving a free win in a fight? I feel like you are. And it's going to lead to this. Red Palace now on the way. And now you're in a situation where even when your opponent techs up, you can't do anything to him. Not in the opening, anyway. And there are issues down the line for Louis. Keep in mind, he's not out of the woods. One big issue is, where are we getting food? Because he does not have mass farms, right? That's the difference. That's the powerful thing about the English. Look at this. Quadruple farm cluster. Not fully set on the late game. There's still room for probably at least another 2 farm clusters here. But Vortex is close to what he needs. Unfortunately, it looks like Lou's going to have to settle for just that one relic in the corner. Vortex already bolstered himself that way. Remember, he's got some big buffs now coming in. You saw the gold there. Enclosure is a hell of a tool here. Longbows now also being queued up. This is interesting. Longbows are a good answer against Arbitrary, because Arbitrary can pervise, but you never feel good about it, because the issue is you then have to stand still. And you will struggle to find a pro-level player that likes standing still with ranged units. It doesn't feel great. Because there's actually a nice little animation skip trick where you can kind of get like an extra attack in a minute, or 2 attacks in per minute, by moving, because there's a small animation frame skip at the end of attacks that gets like basically skewed when you move. I remember I was talking to, I think it's Robbitron over at AoE4 World, where he explained that's why, for example, when you look at the rates they show on their website compared to the in-game rates, they're different. Because of the way that those values round up. And that leads to a wind-out element in the attacks. So we really are heading for mass knights versus mass men-at-arms. Oh, that's cool as well. We've got Jones champions. Makes a lot of sense. Your opponent could be building spearmen, but when you're in Imp as English, you don't really build spears. You always go men-at-arms instead. So this gives you an answer in case your opponent transfers over to crossbows to counter out knights. We are going to need to see some trebs though. The army tactics is on the way. Crossbow stirrups being prepped on the other side though. Remember, this is a big boom, but the challenge now is for the next few minutes, Vortex has quite a big lead in terms of quality. He has volley coming. He also has got network of citadels unlocking. That is huge here, by the way. He is going to have to remember to build outposts. This is one of the negatives of doing network of citadels after Berkshire. Look what just happened. Look what just happened. Look what just happened. And look what just happened. Right now, Vortex has a grand total of 0 buildings giving a 40% attack speed buff. Sorry, 1 building giving a 40% attack speed buff. Always a detail to pay attention to, folks. It's why, like, sometimes you kind of wish you could just go network of citadels in Castle if you're going to go Berkshire. Because that Berkshire doesn't provide the aura. It's another reason on the list of why Berkshire now feels worse than Wingard. Is because you don't have this 6.5k HP structure giving the aura anymore. Stonewall's going up, so it looks like Louis is hunkering down. Makes a lot of sense, right? Like, your opponent is going to try to flank raid with men-at-arms soon. And you have got trade booming up. In fact, we're up to 15 traders right now for Louis. Oh, gold coming in. And I believe we should already have... No Merchant Guild. I guess it doesn't make sense at 15 traders. Usually Merchant Guild starts to make sense at around, like, what, 25 traders? Because it's a 700 resource tech that you don't even start getting value returned to you for a minute anyway. So you do need a justifiable quantity to lean into it. As soon as I say that, Merchant Guild is on the way. Of course they're going to do their upgrades. I mean, you kind of need to, right? Because there's going to have to be a dive into a potentially superior force. And they have to go wide as well, and they'll be seen doing it, right? Like, check the vision on each side. This is Vortex's, and this is Louis'. These keep drops are making it very difficult to just send it straight to your opponent. Yeah, kind of 2 examples of very toxic civs, right? Like, English definitely winning on the toxicity. But Jeanne late game, especially with Red Palace, is kind of up there. Break out on the walls, though. Looks like Vortex is going to be first to make his move. A lot of spearmen now being added in, by the way. We have also got incendiaries on the way. Feels like Vortex should have a small window of opportunity here to attack ahead of Louis, but it's very thin, and the problem now is with the stone walls going up, you have to go through that red pass, right? I'm kind of surprised that for a guy who wants to try and gun it, Vortex is this slow about moving out. The red palace threat means you have to go fast before the stone walls come up, and he simply failed to hit that timing. Remember, by the way, because of the genius level design of whoever created Highview, Sacred Site win conditions are not very feasible here. Night raid round the back in the meantime. Oh boy, we are not ending this game soon, are we? That's a full stonewall in by both players. Hunker down, folks. I clicked on a high view game, and I don't know why I done it. Why do I ever click on high view games anymore? Like, I already know what I'm getting in store for 90% of the time. Ooh. Now that's interesting. Louis, he's sneaking out for a siege workshop. So ram spam could be in the future here. Definitely plenty of wood on the map. Trade account now to 20. Remember, each of these guys, it's kind of like enclosures. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's exactly like enclosures. Right? Because enclosures gives you, I think it's every 5 seconds. I could have sworn it's 6, but I think it's every 5 seconds. Meanwhile, Merchant's Guild is every 6 seconds. But remember, this is also giving you gold on top of that, or you can make it any resource you want. So in some ways, you know, in terms of the efficiency here, I want to say Jeanne competes reasonably well. It's still favorable for the English though, right? Like I think they gather more because traders should take, I don't know if anyone's done the math, I don't want to watch it now. I imagine it's just around a minute to go each way. And you're only getting 61 gold. Meanwhile, your opponent's probably getting like that at least in food, if not more, or the buff gathering rate. But you definitely have flexibility on your side. One big problem right now for Louis, food is looking ugly. We're talking, I wish I was 10 drinks in, but I'm only 1 drink in ugly. Yeah, there's just not many farms yet. I say that it's up to 39, but this only just came online, so delay on getting value, right? Siege Workshop finally being built up. I love the long wall as well, just to guarantee there's no stone walls on the flank. Oh, this is actually very smart for multiple reasons. Think about it. There's a lot of gold and stone down here, but there's also the trade posts. So this lets him know that actually Vortex is limited. He can gather a decent amount of gold. He can potentially go for like a hand cannon near play. But long term, that's not sustainable without trade. Meanwhile, for Jeanne, I mean, between the guild hall and the trade, you can keep on rocking. And that is cool. You guys see that? We never see this anymore from French or Jeanne. It's actually generating stone on the guild hall. So an eventual play into Jeanne's champions, I think. Red Palace being dove. Ambitious from Vortex here. And Arms are trying to just dive onto it, but it's not going to work. And the Knights are delaying them. Reinforcements finally arriving here. Jeanne is going to farm this one up. This could easily end up being level 4. Arbitrary onto the tree line, onto the wall. We'll be able to actually pepper down upon those men-at-arms, and that means the Red Palace is going to live. Knights, in the meantime, are at least going to be intercepted on the flank, but the real big deal here is the amount of XP Jeanne is now pumping. Yeah, ambitious choice by Vortex to headbutt one of the strongest defenses in the entire game's history. Doesn't work out. Rams are now going to be the retreat and follow-up. One that should work a lot better here. Mangos are going to start to deny it, though. Arbitrary from the tree line, from that wall. Able to start farming up for Jeanne. Lombos are spamming down the few Knights that come far forward. But right now, remember, these Arbitrary have the same range as Lombos. They can contest. Villages with repair. Knight count heavily diminished right now. But not much left on the front line here. Enough Knights to just repel away the Rams. Nice garrison comes in for the machine gun. You never thought you were going to see that in an RTS from the medieval age, right? Gatling guns manned by Knights. But apparently we're living every 8-year-old's dream here. Castle now being dropped by the English. Aura could make a difference here, but I think just realistically, Vortex is taking possibly the hardest route to addressing this Red Palace. I guess part of that is forced, right? Like, he doesn't want to go into siege like Bombards because they'll die in range, and even if you repair them, Jeanne can snipe. But Trebuchets is the thing you'd think would make sense here. Oh my god, what was that castle? Less than ideal, I think, is the word I'll choose there. Big mistakes made by Vortex. Wow. And pressure might be mounting up. Vortex, he's about to discover what's down here, at least. That's the good news for him. Stonewall's going up. Looking a little bit ugly, to say the least. And now as we reach deeper into the late game, I mean, I kind of have to lean Joan. Weirdly enough, I think the Lombos could still be somewhat threatening. But yeah, okay, hand cannon is an ambitious choice here. Possibly a little bit of a weird one, actually, considering that the gap closes the problem against Lombo Volley. But if you ever do get that, Joan, after the next fight, will be level 4. And level 4 with the attack speed buffer is insane here. I do think it's a bit weird to just lean into hand cannons over like the Arbitrary, because Arbitrary are a lot more cost efficient. But you could argue the savings add up, right? Like, you're saving double per hand cannoneer what you would per Arbitrary. So it balances out to a certain degree. And you're making yourself more pop efficient. Like, we are talking about a game where Louis has mass trade, so he's not going to run out of gold. So theoretically, hand cannoneers works. Problem on the flank here, though. Vortex knocking at the door. And Louis refusing to answer right now. Oh, he needs to be moving a lot faster than this. This is a mistake made. He was distracted. I think he was messing around on the flank here with the Rams. Might be about to pay the price. Remember, the thing that keeps Louis in this game, in the middle of a transition like this, while still scaling knights, is trade. Without it, he's dead. Vortex starts to march in. Louis brings the army. Joan most definitely looking at a fight that she could easily get level 4 off of. Commitment comes in on both sides. Joan has got the Divine Restoration to work with. It's hard to know exactly when you want to pump it in a fight like this, though. Mango shots to the backside. Bad reaction by Vortex. And the outpost aura not being there is what's favoring Joan. Oh boy. Target fire comes in. Divine Restoration really needs to be pumped, but Joan a little bit too late. But Mangoes will be enough to push this away. Vortex rakes in, but quickly has to leave. Army not that scary here either, actually. There's a big risk that this castle's a bit too ambitious. Imperial Aura is at least going to be big with the network of citadels. But the dive comes in. Yeah, no Vortex. This doesn't work. Vortex. The Bombard's hitting it right now. Mango's moving in. The second time now that Vortex has tried an overly ambitious keep and been denied. And once, but twice. I mean, this is crazy right now. Meanwhile, raids on the gold. It looks like Joan is going to be struck back here. Vortex losing a lot of economy, but at least taking something else in return. Right now, it feels like Vortex's teeth being ripped out. That overly ambitious dive to try and block the trade. You can see what the real intent was here, guys. He wanted the keep drop right here, but just in time with the reaction coming out from Louis, protects his trade and now enables himself to keep inflating in that premium count. We've got more hand cannoneers being queued up. A knight count still looking bloody strong. Yeah, and you're starting to see why I'm favoring Louis here. Vortex finally realizes where this game is going, but it's not a good place to be. Hand cannoneers, great, if you can maintain the aura. How do you maintain the aura and creep the aura against 4 cannons? And if you do not have that aura, how long before Louis does? Remember, that 35% buffer basically puts you on par with Network of Citadels. It does look like he might be on course to deliver the maximum dosage of Jeanne D'Arc. In fact, 17 Rams just got queued up. Where? Because he got spotted out on the south side, right? So he's just building them at home, I guess. That's wild. Bombard's shuffling out. I don't think that castle's going to last very long. Oops. Joan's back. And the push is on. Keep drop now coming in from Louis. Keep being rushed up now by Vortex in defense, but with the cannons so close by, I don't think this works. Louis staggers the arrival. Pulls the knights back here. Allows the spin to engage. There's no brace, and then re-engages. Crossbow's clearing this up. Joan holding the line, and there it is. Mecha Jeanne online. This is big. Varus Inspiration really is the juice you need. Hasn't been activated just yet, but it doesn't even matter. Even without that, Vortex now in retreat. Castle after castle. This is what we've been waiting for. Remember, Louis was hauling Guildhall into stone the entire time. This is the crawl he needed. And this should be the game. Vortex fallen further and further behind the French variant. Knock at the door. Once again, you don't want to answer, but there's no choice. Louis lets himself in. The rally points. Vortex. Bit of a cluster. Mangoes. Not the best of hits. The follow-up will be juicy. And remember, folks, Louis primed almost 20 rams behind this. They're coming. Another big problem right now is Vortex's walls are creating choke points that don't help him. The mangoes are a big problem here. He needs anti-siege, but he can't play that into Jeanne D'Arc. New TC, or new keep rather, coming up. Berkshire about to go down, and this looks done. This looks absolutely decimated. Faust inspiration coming off cooldown. Remember what we said as well. There's no landmark giving the aura. These fights could not be more one-sided if they tried. Neither can this game. I can't believe it. Jeanne D'Arc meant to be a huge disadvantage against the English, but not when you give it to Louis.